I'm curious about, in this new ESSA environment, how you see the lay of the land in the states.
So I think there's a lot of large conversations going on around the actual end goals for education. Where does the state want to be and how does it envision itself getting there? The states are now working a lot around implementation. So the states are kind of quietly going about the business of implementation. Some states put a lot into their ESSA plans, and some states just were really complying with a federal form. So the states that put a lot of detail into their plan, put a lot of creativity into their plan, now they have to go about the work of figuring out the policies that need to be put in place in order to make those goals real. The other states that were really just thinking about it more in terms of federal compliance probably already were doing some of that work anyway, so that work will continue. It just may not be reflected in particular in their state plan. For some states, that means that they're going to have to change their state statutes. For example, around accountability, they might have to change what's in their state plans or their statutes to comply with what's in their plans. In some states, they need to update their options for low-performing schools, for example. So that's mostly what we're seeing.
ESSA provides a lot more flexibility for states, but with that flexibility, I guess, are pressures on capacity. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious about how the legislatures are thinking about capacity building at the state level to support localities.
That's a really important question. A lot of states were very excited about the flexibility, and then when they actually dug into some of it, they quickly discovered that it wasn't something that either aligned with their state goals or that they just didn't have the capacity to do. I think, for example, the assessment flexibility was something that really drew attention from state policymakers, and the more they thought about what it would entail and how long it would take to actually implement something like that, and the fact that they would have to be perhaps double testing some students in order to prove the validity of the new assessments, they have backed off some of that. And so I think there's been a lot of conversation about whether it really makes sense for the states to take advantage of that flexibility and what it will entail.
We're coming out of the NCLB era where there's been a lot of emphasis on using testing and assessment and accountability as a lever to invoke behavior changes in the localities. What are states learning about the limitations of that lever as a way of producing the kinds of changes that are constructive as opposed to less constructive?
I think there's a lot of frustration around the fact that there wasn't as much flexibility around the kinds of assessments and the frequency of assessments that the Every Student Succeeds Act requires. I think states had hoped to be able to do more performance-based assessments. They had hoped to be doing assessments not as frequently, but more meaningful assessments less frequently, so that the information that they were getting was just as effective, but they didn't feel like they were really tying students' hands around all these different kinds of assessments. And I think that they're also really realizing that the information they get from those kinds of assessments is really limited. The full picture of a student and how well they're performing doesn't come from a single summative assessment. It really comes from the information that teachers are gathering every day on those particular students.